This now, the Diepsloot community blames local police for high crime rates in the area. They also rejected assurances by Police Minister Bheki Cele that there is a plan to deal with the problem. Now, residents want President Cyril Ramaphosa to personally intervene. Let's find out if communities have lost trust in law enforcement. Lizette Lancaster from the Institute for Security Studies joins me now to give us her perspective. Lizette, thank you so much for your time and good morning to you. When it comes to Diepsloot residents at this stage, just looking by the protests, they have given up hope in terms of, trusting the police seemingly, but not only them, it's the police minister as well that they say they don't trust anymore. They now place their trust in the president. Where do you think this break of trust and loss of confidence comes from, Lizette?
We have seen this break of trust and this decreasing trust nationally in South Africa since about 2 decades ago. So after democracy, for the first decade, we did see increases in trust as community policing took hold, and there were efforts to work together with communities. And in the past decade, we have seen this decrease. Now, according to the Human Sciences Research Council's research for in 2021, trust in police in Gauteng is only about 19%, and in the country overall, about 27%, up from about 50%, a decade before that. So we are seeing just a general breakdown in trust, as it is clear that police are not able to deal with a rising violent crime rate, and that very often the police are seen as not taking people's concerns seriously, properly investigating cases, and arresting the criminals that run rampant in these communities like Diepsloot, where there are quite serious violent syndicates and gangsters operating.
Where are the challenges from the police's side, do you think? Because when I spoke to Brigadier Brenda Moridile quite recently, Lizette, upon the protests, starting out, she said that they need, residents to come forward with information. They know who the perpetrators are, but it seems they don't want to be involved in, naming these criminals, so not to be targets themselves. This amongst other reasons that she gave. But it seems like they're struggling, even on their side, to penetrate through Diepsloot and find these criminals and further prevent crime from happening again.
Yes, and this is about this breakdown in trust and perceptions that the police are not able or unwilling to do anything about the violent crime rates. So what we have is this evil cycle where communities don't believe the police will help them. If you name these criminals and they are not removed from your community, you will fear for your life. So the police are not trusted to really get on top of this crime situation in places like Diepsloot. And therefore, communities are not coming forward. Of course, also, from our research in places like Diepsloot, we know that communities intensely distrust the police, say that there are officers that are corrupt and working with these gangsters. So naming these criminals might really lead to retaliations and further death, according to many of the residents of places like Diepsloot.
It seems under the same breath, residents say they know who these criminals are, most of them saying it's undocumented, illegal foreign nationals that are running rampage within the communities. They're saying they don't have the right documents, they don't have fingerprints documenting them in South Africa, so therefore, should they commit a crime, it cannot be traced back to them. Are these reasons valid? Are these sound reasons from communities just in terms of placing the blame that the criminals are illegal foreign nationals?
It is, in short, not an accurate assertion. We know that, according to most communities, including Diepsloot and residents, that criminals are not just foreign nationals, but are seen to be South Africans as well. We have done research in Diepsloot, and what we found is that very often people are feeling that the criminals that are there, some are foreigners and they are not being dealt with. But we know from a lot of research and data released by the Minister for Justice that foreigners are not more likely to commit crime. They always need South Africans to be with them. So there's no accuracy in the fact that foreign nationals are more likely to commit crime than South Africans. We know it's quite a proportional thing, but that it is more a case that the police are not getting on top of the criminals, irrespective of whether they're South African or foreign migrants. And we do know that there's this increase of scapegoating almost to say that foreign nationals are to blame. And we see organizations like Operation Dudula operational in places like Diepsloot that perpetuate this narrative. But as a whole, there are foreigners and South Africans involved in criminal activities in places like Diepsloot, and none of them are being brought to justice.
Do you think the president at all will honor this invitation by residents? I mean, they've been calling him time and time again, saying they don't want to speak to the police anymore. They don't want to engage with the police minister as well anymore. They want the attention of the president. One, do you think he will honor, this invitation? And two, do you think he will provide long-term sustainable solutions to crime prevention in Diepsloot?
The presidency has made promises last week to the residents. So we hope that the president will honor these promises. But of course, the president is only one person. He cannot be everywhere. What we are seeing is how communities are increasingly frustrated and desperate and calling on higher and higher officers in the country, now the president, because they've lost faith not only in their local police, but in the police minister and such. So it is sort of a desperate attempt to get the top ears on the ground. But the problem is, of course, the challenges in Diepsloot needs a holistic, integrated approach. We need the police to do targeted hotspot policing at the right places at the right times. Investigating this, we need prosecutions by the eNCA. We need people to be brought to book. The president cannot do all of that. He can listen, but to direct proper, focused policing is, of course, a challenge that we face in many communities.
In my last question to you, Lizette, before I say goodbye, should the president not honor, this invitation to the satisfaction of the residents? Should the police minister, alongside law enforcement, not crack the whip on crime in Diepsloot and these protests continue? What are the foreseen consequences in this regard? Because already we have seen some of the shops and stores, the township economy being affected because one of the residents and one of the community leaders said that they need businesses to shut down and be a part of solutions as opposed to sitting back and it being business as usual. What do you foresee then being consequences should this matter not be resolved?
Well, at a larger scale, we saw consequences during the unrest of 2021, where people lost their lives, where violence occurred over days, where foreign national shops were targeted, very often documented people, and where local shops are targeted and children get injured. And our children are seeing this violence on our streets, and it becomes more normal. We are going to see a rise in vigilantism, as we have been in the past decade, as trust in policing have dwindled. And we will just see a sustained, almost parallel type of policing structures taking place, where communities will be more likely to act in violent forms and to take the law into their own hands.
That indeed is a call for concern. But thank you so much, Lizette, for, of course, speaking to us, giving us your perspective. Lizette Lancaster from the Institute for Security Studies talking to me this morning right here on Newslink.